Consumers are still strong. They've been strong throughout this entire period. The numbers have bounced around a little bit, but look, even the revisions for the April sales were a full 0.5 of a point direction, a positive revision to those sales. So you take this, you say missed a little bit by 1/10. The revision, that's within the, the
also 11 out of
area.
13 sectors were higher.
Yeah, and the other thing I always look at is not that number, but the year-over-year increase, which is over 3% again, which is what retailers care about. What are my comp store sales, right? So the economy continues to grow. The consumer is very strong. They will continue to be strong as long as they have jobs the way they do, as long as wages are good, as long as consumer confidence is high, and unless the stock market were to take a big dive, because sometimes that does have an effect. Otherwise, there won't be anything. It doesn't matter what people are talking about. It doesn't matter if people are yapping about tariffs or impeachment or even geopolitical concerns. If people have jobs and money, they're going to spend it.
It's not just talk of tariffs, though. Of course, they're coming into play. They could get elevated. At the moment, it seems like their effect has played out for the companies rather than for the consumer. If that changed, would it hit consumer sentiment?
I just don't think it would be big enough. And really, it's been almost no effect so far if we look at it. And retail after retailers come out and said that. It hadn't any effect on us really yet, when you see what's going on. And the good ones are taking action already. It is our job to manage shocks to the system, and that's what retailers are doing. They will go to the vendors and demand concessions, and a lot of them will give it, or otherwise they're going to move the production. They'll move the production to other countries that don't have the tariff. Also, we don't have to carry anything. If the margin's too short, then you don't carry that item or that product. So you have a choice as a retailer, what you sell and what you don't sell. So you sell things you can make money on. And then finally, at the end of the day, only if you have to, then you raise prices. But if you think about it, it's a percent of goods that come from there, and it's a percent of those that have to increase. And if you ship production or something, it's not a 25% increase in cost. It's the next lowest price country. So really, this has been a little bit of an overreaction. And whatever the impact is on the consumer, it really, at this point, will be relatively small. Now, there are a few categories. Toys is one I'd like to mention because it is dominant that it comes from China. There's nowhere else to get it. I would hope that the administration is smart enough, politically and thoughtfully, not to put a tariff on something like toys right before Christmas when there's nowhere else to get toys.
And most of the industry obviously is built after a couple of these cycles without great inflation as a tailwind to operate this way.
And I hate to say this is not a positive, but it's trying to find some positive and negative story because really no one thinks tariffs are good. But if there is a little bit of retail inflation, that actually is good for retailers because there's a lot of fixed costs in a retail infrastructure for rents. Wages are always sticky, on the upside. So if you can get a little inflation going, you get actually some leverage in the P&L. You'll see that translate as higher same-store sales, even if it comes from inflation. Great, you have to sell less items to get the same sales. So the profitability will improve for those retailers who have the strength to manage it, who can manage their supply chains, and can put the pressure on the vendors to deliver those lower prices.
So since you mentioned